Everybody, it's Juansgalt with Crypto TV, and you're about to watch Meme Panel. Meme Panel. This is a conversation that I filmed with a variety of crypto and meme magicians at DogeCon, where there was also a decentralized dance party, which is how this had occurred. If you've ever been to one, if you have not been to one, you have to check it out. If you have been to one, you know how awesome they are. Basically crazy wardrobes, lots of banana suits and book boxes, partying down the streets of X City that they decided to emerge to. So it was an excellent time. I had a great time. I appreciate Gary LeChan for letting me crash at his place during most of the event and for putting together such an amazing conference experience. As well as everybody else that went there, and thank you to Komodo for sponsoring this kind of content. Let us know what you think. Engage this kind of content. Let us, you're gonna see all the people that I'm talking about, and very innovative kind of people that are at the edge of culture in the crypto sphere. You're gonna get to see what they think about memes. What are memes? Why memes? How memes? What is going on? You're about to find out. All right, I'm just gonna start it. I don't know what this is gonna be called. Probably meme panel. Meme panel. So let's do some introductions. My name is Juan Galt. I've done crypto journalism and stuff. I'm into memes.
My name is Anders. I am the admin of Sorcery of the Spectacle, and I also like memes.
My name is Louis, and I like memes as well, and I hope to have an interesting, fun conversation about them.
My name is Damo. I am the strategic philosopher for the Decentralized Dance Party, longtime consciousness explorer, culture explorer, and movement builder.
My name is Gary, also of the Decentralized Dance Party, and an avid Doge enthusiast.
Louis, we don't have too much time with you. You're an artist, right? You've created a variety of Pepe memes. What is that like? Tell us about that.
Well, I think for me, the fundamental thing was kind of realizing that I was an artist, because I didn't have, I didn't specialize in artistic training or have that background, and fundamentally, I didn't create art on a regular basis. And it wasn't until I really discovered the Rare Pepe project that I was brought into this loop of, I can create these things, interact with the community, and then someone will buy it for even like 50 cents, right? But that's fundamental enough. Like, wow, there's feedback in the global brain here for what I'm doing, and that's motivating enough. It's not the income, it's the human, co-creation aspect that starts, hey, wait a second, I really enjoy doing this, and focused attention, kind of building up your repertoire and skill set to create these things. And really, like, one day you wake up and be like, hey, I guess I am an artist. I think of myself as one, right? And that potential is available to everyone, and that's really what I find most enlightening.
So Pepe Cash was your entry into selling art or creating art that people will buy. Just for the record, you can sell memes on Pepe Cash. You tokenize them and then you sell the tokens, and then people actually buy them, even without any other sort of, they're building a game in the background, but it hasn't been delivered yet. And even then, there's a marketplace with incentivizing. That was your entry into art?
Yeah, yeah. I knew about meme coins since Doge back in the day, but the whole like art economy aspect. I think a decentralized art project, really, the Rare Pepe project was the first of its kind, because it was all inclusive. Anyone could submit anything they want, bar like a few good taste guidelines. There was really no restrictions of who or what could be submitted, as long as it was a Pepe and fitting with the spirit of the evolution of a holistic celebration of Pepe, right? So I think that was the real crux. And I think a lot of projects have tried to encapsulate that model since, but have yet to really get that spark of like uninhibited co-creation that the original Rare Pepe blockchain project had at one point.
Yeah, and they still have it, and they're still producing a lot of like really good
Pepe memes, like high quality art that you don't really see in things like Pepe Dap, where they have the technology to actually have an Ethereum marketplace for selling them and stuff. Like they have good technology and a lot of people in there, but the quality of the memes is like nowhere near there. By the way, you guys feel free to jump in at any time.
I just to close on that, I would say it's kind of indicative of how the best technology often doesn't win out, and we could see that in the blockchain space, and the quote unquote whatever the best technology means, right? Especially in the world of memes, it's about resonating with the meme as such.
Yeah. Have any thoughts on that? Okay. We have some Doge, a lot of Doge energy here. Anybody want to talk about why? What is the Doge? Why the Doge? Or why not the Doge? Oh.
So I think what's really most amazing about Doge is that I think everyone is arriving at the same interpretation of it, even though. So I don't know how I knew that Doge was associated with DDP. I must have just seen them next to each other, or I must have just recognized that they were a similar energy. And then I also am studying this idea of stigmergy, which is coordination through ambient trails or non-coordination, so no direct communication, or like holographic coordination. So you're coordinating with people whom you've never met through cryptic communication channels that are like occulted communication channels. So I feel like Doge is this nexus for all of these different movements to come together, and we don't know why it's Doge.
Yeah, at the Doge parade the other day, I kind of had the observation that this is essentially, it seemed to me like a Dionysian revival festival. And then you have, so as I think studying that might be enlightening to like the progression of like what this energy is. It's a revelry. It's a celebration of life. And we have the Holy Trinity was represented. There was the big red rocket, phallic symbology, moon, Yoni symbology, and then the Doge head, which is like the sun, Doge consciousness. So there you have like embedded a Holy Trinity inside of this like humane celebration revival that I found really interesting. Doge is the channel for this energy that's like it's eternal and archetypal, and now we're building from the ground up the structure for it to embody and spread in a decentralized manner.
What is a good meme, or what is people that want to get into meme making, what might they want to know in order to get something that flows?
I think it's really more about like being in touch with yourself and what your viewpoint is. Like your viewpoint has good memes, so being kind of like what you think and your perspective on the situation is what provides value to everyone, right? Because you have a unique perspective, and codifying that into memes and launching them boldly and seeing if they replicate.
You gonna read us a poem?
I had this thing printed out. I was really excited about Dogecoin one day, and I wrote a thing about the intrinsic value of it.
Okay.
Mind if I share?
Please.
So it says, for those new to the decentralization movement, cryptocurrencies have no intrinsic value is an oft-repeated trope, favored by those who have yet to fully comprehend our lovely little revolution. It's all a collective illusion, friends, and it's all based on trust. And while any medium of exchange will likely betray your trust at some point in time, only one comes with an intrinsic guarantee of good times, side-splitting laughter, and memories to last a lifetime. These proof of humanity moments and memories are something not even the most powerful thief, state actor, or black swan event can ever misappropriate! Exclamation mark. And with our purchasing power combined, the intrinsic value of all humanity can be forever fortified! Exclamation mark. For indeed, there are more than enough Dogecoin to enrich every man, woman, and child currently in circulation. None must suffer the pernicious prospect of remaining undoged. Trust in Dogecoin for a better right now and a better tomorrow. That's all I got.
That's a really nice intro to my perspective of Doge in terms of the movement, the techno-political, social, human movement that's going on right now. We had a lot of innovation and a lot of solidarity for a long time in the crypto community, thanks to Bitcoin, and then it got divided and vicious quick. That's when, to me, the true value of Doge came forward. It is actually a cryptocurrency with a serious market cap, and it's the only one I've seen with this level of human connection and positivity and goodwill and all the things that we have to embody as people if we ever want this technology to do us any good at all.
Yeah, that's really true. There was like a splinter at the community layer of the cryptocurrency market, especially Bitcoin oriented. But I think it kind of touched everybody, and there was a little bit of friction everywhere. That was my experience anyway. People that I've go out and hang out with and stuff, and I think that's sort of healing a little bit. But makes me wonder: is Satoshi itself a meme? Does Bitcoin have a meme of its own outside of Pepe Cash, which lives on top of Bitcoin, right? And maybe it is, because like the conflict, like there is a lot of archetypal sort of like mythological stuff to Bitcoin. Like there's the Genesis block, and then the creator vanishes, right? And now people talk about the vision of Satoshi and the true word of Satoshi, the true ideal of Satoshi. So he has become like decentralized. He became distributed through disappearing.
Oh yeah.
Well,
that's actually a really nice point, right? Because there you go. We're recreating our origin story. We've got a 2,000-year inertia on the main story that our civilization runs on, and boom, we're 10 years into the next version of that same story. And what I've been noticing on the political end is that we're bringing in the same attitudes and the same types of interpersonal dynamics that we participate in politics that don't work. It's like the debate model that we still even present to ourselves at conferences, where you get two people on stage that really disagree and then watch them dig their heels in for 30 or 45 minutes. But what we need to get to is the opposite of figuring out how to find our similarities and how to work together from our core values, which means getting two people who disagree, and the goal is to find a middle path by the end of 30 or 45 minutes, a way they can work together and solve each other's problems, right? Yeah.
I want to point out, and I'd be curious to hear your thoughts and everyone's thoughts on this as well, is it seems to me Doge is resistant to power as such, meaning like the balkanization of Bitcoin then turned largely into like viewpoint shifts, and then propelled throughout time as power grabs, like huge amounts of money, huge amounts of potential sway, political power. Who knows what kind of deals are being made? Like the tour de force has been known, and now human behavior is imprinting onto that. But it seems Doge is resistant to that type of energy that we're trying to escape, and without that energy, whatever remains is like light, very subtle, and perhaps like difficult to talk about because we're not so immersed in it all the time.
This is the power of a religious icon, an imago, that can effectively represent or represent, in our experience, the original feeling. I was going to say Satoshi, psychoanalytically, is the absent father. And so what's likely to happen in that situation is projection onto the outside world of our own belief systems, our own political systems, as if they were given by God, or as if they were given by our Father, our source of authority. So what you're likely to see here, and search bubbles will emphasize this, is multiple communities who think that they know what Satoshi wants and are not aware of other perspectives. That would be my prediction here.
Yeah, that's a great comment.
And I don't know the field. So that's a real prediction. So maybe you can tell me if that's
what's a prediction?
Yeah, everybody argues over. Yeah, everybody argues over what Satoshi says.
Mm-hmm.
Selectively pulls quotes, pretends the other thing didn't happen or doesn't matter. The usual.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the differences between Dogecoin and Bitcoin, as far as how people engage in that economy, in that community, maybe that in Dogecoin it was never quite about the money. It was never about making like the global currency trading pair, like that is sort of their highest aim, the highest aim of a lot of people in Bitcoin. But with Dogecoin, it started more innocently than that. It was just like, it's Dogecoin, just made it for fun. I think Jackson Palmer said that yesterday or while he was here. It was just a joke, and then people just ran with it. And so the joke is the start, and everything else is kind of following, and it's a means of gifting and funding funny things and cool things, and it's a lot less serious, which is great. It's one of the reasons probably why it's still around, because people don't, I don't know, like there's something about that.
Yeah, I think it's in a really cool view about how intention precipitates into manifestation. Like, we look at many ICOs and we wonder in the back room, like, what's the intention of this project to stick XYZ on the blockchain and then do a big expensive marketing push, and then essentially enriches the proprietors of the ICO and perhaps the people in on it, and at the expense of the later crew. And that's kind of like that malintention in the beginning of wanting to acquire wealth and not worrying about the expense of others precipitates into that train wreck over time, right? So with Doge, it seems like, yeah, from the very get-go, and then everyone who co-creates with it, it's like that malintention has no place to stick, right? So then Doge is going through time with this interesting energy that's not about acquiring wealth or power as such, but perhaps something else, something more humane.
Yeah, I've been thinking about this somewhat because I'm working with a real estate startup. And one of the questions that we have is, we think we're creating something really great, but we want to be careful who we let in. And so we're just letting like high trust people in. And so the seeding process of the people that are the founders is actually really, really important. And people have talked about like the immaculate conception of Bitcoin as a thing that is hard to replicate. And I think you just hit it over the head. The people that get in for the vision itself, not for the short-term money, are in a very different place. And I in this bear market sort of settling that's happening, we'll see how bearish it is or how bullish it gets. I think we're seeing the people that are in it for the money, like that would just go leave, really.
And one comment on that, yeah, it's like I like that immaculate conception analogy. Doge had it. I think the rare Pepe blockchain project had it, and I think there's a formula for creating immaculate conceptions, which is just like pure creativity, and it's really about providing service to others and resonating with things that you find interesting and truthful. And that goes back to creating memes. Like, if you want to create memes, find out what's true to you and launch it, because you're not alone.
Well, maybe Gary can speak to this. But
Yeah, this is really important stuff, because what we're talking about here is community. It's the alignment of shared identity and purpose. It's not just a technology project. It's not just providing a solution to a problem. These are political entities insofar as what they're trying to handle are things that affect us in our body politic, things like economy, things like access to necessary goods and services for life. And the energy that we come around something in, beyond the specific thing it's trying to accomplish, the shared values, the shared idea of how the world should feel, affinity for one another, easeful friendship that turns into silly, beautiful times where we're still being productive. You can't fake that stuff. And that's way more levels of complexity than we're used to having when we come together in civilization to solve problems. But when we start aligning that with our social philosophy and our social politics, if you were, our natural social affinities, we get something like Doge, and we get something strong. You've got so much identity that goes beyond just the core thing that people are either going to get it or they won't. And if they try to interact with it and don't really belong, they may be perfectly welcome. Like Doge is so welcoming. we don't push people away, but people just sort of like voluntarily find their way in or out, and no one's got a reason to like FOMO in because we're not playing that game.
Yeah, and people will stick through the hard times to the price, and it's like, you know, it's not the primary reason, so they keep going, they keep memeing, they keep doging. Gary, you are at the cusp of this thing, this movement. The DDP, you've been doing it for a long time, right? I believe maybe you can tell us how many you've done in a bunch of cities, right?
It's been 9 years and like 85 parties or something.
85. Wow. And you're kind of a meme on you yourself are kind of a meme. Would you agree to that, or would you no?
I mean, a very unknown one, I guess. But when me and Tom were starting this, was like, yeah, we'll just be these silly character figureheads of this thing. It's kind of a joke. Like, we have these dumb names and silly clothes, and we just figured it would be a good way to pitch it. Like, you have similar events like the pillow fight or the whatever, but if you have these funny characters at the helm, then I think it can be more powerful and effective and fun.
Yeah, so yeah.
And 9 years later,
But not like,
Gary the chance.
yeah, it's not like something that we're getting off on.
Yeah. And why would you? Like, you can keep going. And it's really spreading. I mean, as far as like the people that I talk to, whenever I show somebody DDP, the Centralized Dance Party, they're like, "Whoa!" Immediate sort of rabbit hole. Like they're curious, you know, and this can spread and work pretty well. Maybe I think it can spread over. I wanted to ask you, what is it like to be around like Niven? I can never pronounce his name. Niven is like a meme of his own too. Like he's like people have called him the spirit animal of the DDP. I wanted him to be here, but you know, as a spirit animal, he has a will of his own and is on a different time zone. What is it like to experience that, to sort of see him kind of flourish in that role? Because his the stuff that he comes up with as far as like, you know, fashion and stuff is unbelievable.
Yeah, I think he's definitely the personification of the Doge. We make a really good team because I'm always thinking like 100 steps ahead and analyzing, and he's just existing and doing and just nivening. Like, that's a verb. Or just
Living the dream.
Yeah, just being yourself and fully expressing yourself and just doing whatever you're here to do without questioning it. And I guess, yeah, that is also the teaching of the Doge.
Yeah, so anybody that hasn't looked into the DDP, I really encourage you to go have a look at the white paper for the DDP. Like, you wrote this document where you outlined like the fundamental principles of the DDP, and it's a trip, man. It's like academic grade, hard hitting, like, you know, change your worldview on fundamentals type of thing. So
The field manual, you mean?
yeah, I think maybe that's it. Yeah,
It's actually unreleased so far.
I saw one
Glad you
in
liked
the website. It's like it's a document.
It's the party manifesto.
Party manifesto. That's it. Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Doesn't go super deep though.
God, I saw one that was like talking about like the privacy is the enemy, which is something that's really, in a sense, on the other side of my, you know, let's say biases, right? Like, I've all been about like anonymity and like privacy and stuff, but then I'm also public, so it's like very contradictory for me. But anyway, with that one. Anyway.
Yeah. What should I say about it?
Yeah, no, I was just pointing it out. It's somewhere on the website.
Yeah, it's in there's a page called "The Future Will Not Be Centralized" on the DDP website. And
Why do you think the DDP took off? What is it about the DDP that memed?
That memed. Yeah, I mean, I think there's this fundamental urge within everybody to want to express yourself and have fun and connect. And if you look at kids in a playground or wherever, that's what they do all day long. They're just playing and being silly and having fun together and exploring with curiosity and irreverence. And then centralized society beats that out of us, and there aren't many venues. Like Burning Man is a great party city that holds space for frivolity and creativity and innocence, and you don't get that hardly anywhere in a normal society, default world. So that's kind of what we try and create too. There's definitely certain people take to it more than others. Like there's a lot of people that are depressed and suicidal because this world just feels so wrong to them, and then they're the ones that immediately gravitate to the DDP, I've found, because there's just this innate desire to want to behave in that way and connect with people.
Yeah, and it really opens up people's possibilities, like visions of what's possible. But Jack Palmer, at some point during the conference, not during the DDP, when we were at the center place, there's like a dance off or something like that. It was one of the gardens in Vancouver. I think I asked him when I was like, "How does it feel? Like, are you proud of what you've created?" And his answer was like, "I feel like I don't know what life, like what I thought life was. Like that's no more. Like I feel like I didn't know what life was." Something like that, right? Kind of like.
I guess, yeah. That's what good art is all about.
Yeah.
So we can expand people's perceptions of
and
possibilities and
the idea of being ridiculous, like dressing in, like wearing a banana suit or wearing just funky, crazy, abnormal clothes. That's sort of like that's embodied in Pepe and in Doge, right? It's sort of like things that are strange and funny and not serious, and lets you explore topics that maybe are like, because comedy usually hits some sort of secret knowing, right? It's like the collective unconscious, that there's something people know but they don't want to talk about, and then you put a funny hat on it and point it out, and people just burst up in laughter, right? So it's a communicative tool. It's very fun, great for partying.
I think taking yourself too seriously.
Yeah.
It's a grave error in living your life. That's all I got.
It's pretty good.
So I've been thinking about memes as propagation messages for communications. And from that point of view, memes are really the beginning of non-fake news for the first time in history, because they're things that people actually want to propagate. They're content addressed. They're immutable in that if you change a meme, it becomes a slightly different meme. And people remember them, so by their content as well, or the one or two keywords. So it creates this very lateral distributed system of propagating news or information or updates, because the people who are in a community of people who love a meme will propagate some interesting variation on that. So what exactly is being propagated or encoded exactly? It's like perspective change or something like that.
Yeah, that's really interesting. It coming from a political science background immediately makes me think of what I think you mentioned yesterday, like the idea that the DoD might have come into 4chan and sort of set up shop. It's like a meme, and a meme culture even is this emergent, evolving thing. And so a narrative can be shifted through a hidden agenda of some actor on the system. Mm-hmm. So the fact that a meme can be changed little bits at a time is one way they can use to subtly shift a message from something pure and innocent to pernicious and divisive. Mm-hmm. And we see it time after time. In fact, that's what happened with the Tea Party. It actually started as a sincere conservative revolt against neoconservatism, and very quickly was sort of taken over by Fox News and the whole neocon thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think Doge can resist that type of colonization here too, partly because it's a dog scaled currency, so it's scaled to one dog, and partly because so that'll maintain the sanity of the currency, and then partly because I think that these humorous imagos like Church of the Subgenius, the Flying Spaghetti Monster, all of these different funny images, I think it is hard to simulate true humor, and that the like distributed like radio transmission and like affect dysregulation sensors that we implanted in all of the Doge fans a few years ago, those are working really well.
Just look at that face. It's how can you corrupt that? It's uncorruptible.
That's exactly it.
The more useless our waste and excess, and the more exuberant our partying, the more useless we will be as a movement. And the more useless we'll be, I don't know, like something about something.
Well, yeah, I think we're kind of defining two undercurrents of memes, two forces. One, we'll call it like pernicious propaganda of power consolidation, and the other, this revelry and the natural evolution of memes as such because of human community and ecstasis and all of these things. And yeah, that's what's incredible about Doge and the DDP and the community around all of this becoming, is that keeping the party alive is like we're mining for human connection and human connectivity and ecstasis and all of these things to reach the high point of inspiration where we feel connected to something, and then we can meme that out and that resonates, and that's like an anti-fragile system. So if you say like the miners support Bitcoin, it's the partying supports DDP and Doge and the whole energy of that upward evolution of meme spirals that it seems to me can't be propagated against. Because if you want to compete with the DDP as such or Dogecoin as such, you need to outcompete them in the realm of providing service and providing meaningful connection to people, and that cannot be done via propaganda. So wow, all of a sudden the competing isn't even a thing. It's decentralized dance party. So if you want to join, start up your own chapter and get to work.
Yeah, well, the interesting thing about that is those particular mechanisms are used all the time in political movements to create inviting. Like, they wouldn't compete directly and say, hey, we've got a better thing. They would find a way to inject a message that starts dividing people within this community. So far, we have seemed to be anti-fragile, and it's awesome. And it may be that we've figured out the secret sauce, But these are particular tactics that will come at us, and really it'll be our ability to prove that anti-fragility time and time again that shows whether we're really there or not.
I think what Anders said about not doing, kind of like the woo way of this, is being like not setting ourselves up in any capacity to be in a position of power, because that's power intersects with power, and then that's even a personal weak spot, and a weak spot for, let's call it, the movement, or the creating the baseline level for this energy to manifest. So yeah, by just partying and not taking ourselves seriously, hey, there's nothing to stick,
It's the the Juan way. It's just bow wow in Japanese, the Juan way, not the woo way.
You elaborate on that?
Juan is bow wow in Japanese. So instead of the woo way, it should be the Juan way. Yeah, that's all.
Got it. I just want to comment on that real quick. Abundance. The trick about abundance is you can use abundance to make choices that undermine over time the foundations of how you got that abundance. That's kind of my working theory, and it's you see it on all kinds of different things. I can't remember exactly why I was talking about that, so you can go. Great podcast host.
This is going.
Maybe were you
really
touching a bit on like how that we're creating this abundance there's abundance evident here in what's going on, and perhaps some like things to watch out for in terms of how maybe a scarcity mindset can stick in when we don't know it and undermine the foundations. Kind of like, you know, again, talking about the mining of this kind of consciousness being the human connection and partying and communion and decentrally not taking ourselves seriously, and what could be the snake in the garden to watch out for.
Yeah, so the snake in the garden would be something like people created Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. Well, let's start with Bitcoin out of I think it was a moment of scarcity, in that, you know, the financial system was being corrupted and it was centralized and it was stealing from people at scale, right? It's like they're taking things, you know, and it's making people's lives, you know, more rigid and limited. And so Bitcoin was born out of that, and then from there it's a huge sense of abundance that came from the cryptos, right? And there's been all this innovation, all this sort of movement. The snake would be that people get so wealthy, right? And so they flourish so much that they forget why it works. And they cave to the temptation of, like, because, you know, if you say that decentralization of power is good, then that power, you know, assuming it's constant, it would just be distributed among more people. So it's the empowering of the individual is the decentralization of power, in a sense. But if people forget that centralization of power is bad and they start sort of accumulating to that, then they might get strong enough to break the system again, you know. So a 51% attack is the snake in the garden. Yeah.
I'm gonna have to bow out.
Okay. Bow. Wow. Okay, man. Well, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's been awesome. Yeah. And, he's got memes. Buy them if you like them. Find them. We'll put some memes on. There's some really great artwork, and there's a lot of stuff coming out of Pepe Cash. It's really good. You have thoughts?
Yeah, there's a few thoughts. I guess I'm a technological determinist. I think that decentralization of power, decentralizing technologies, if humans are fundamentally good, this is just the network that'll allow that to flourish. But part of the reason I wrote this privacy is the enemy thing is because I think that it kind of is a race against time, because the tech, blockchain or whatever, can also be used to track and basically lock society down. So I'm just always thinking about the best ways to create messages, movements, memes that will have the most power for this movement. So that's why for a long time I've been trying to pitch this as decentralization as an acceptance movement, not a resistance. I think the infighting, tribalism, all that is like dumb old world thinking. And yeah, we've been doing the DDP for a long time with that philosophy, and it's resisted any kind of corruption, I think, for 9 years. But yeah, this Doge face, I mean, I've still been learning about it this whole week. I'm like writing about it and talking to people and thinking about it. And I think it's like every successful movement has like an avatar, a flag, or an icon. And I had to look up the term avatar. It has a really good definition, which is a manifestation of a deity or released soul in bodily form on earth, an incarnate divine teacher. So that face is, I don't know, I think it's like everyone's favorite song. Like you hand that sticker to people and they're just instantly happy. It just like resonates with everybody. And I don't think any of us could say exactly why we're coming around to that, but I think that face with this acceptance movement and the philosophy of GDP and everything else, and just prioritizing innocence and connection and good times is like, there's nothing more powerful than that, and the forces of darkness don't stand a chance.
Woo! Do you feel that, I want to ask you, do you feel that Doge and its sort of interplay with DDP, this is the second sort of decentralized Doge party you've had. Do you feel that it has changed, like it has sort of brought something, new, or like how was that played out? Having Doge enter the DDP.
I mean, initially, with the DDP, we were super hyped when Bitcoin came along. It was like, wow, like Bitcoin, decentralized currency, like the Bitcoin community is going to see what we're doing and want to support us. I mean, they have, but there wasn't a huge amount of support, really. And then Dogecoin came out. We're like, whoa, Bitcoin plus frivolity. Like, this is it. And they were sending like the Jamaican bobsled team to the Olympics, and we were having all these insane nights and interactions, just like laughing about this and like making stickers and doing parties about it, and just so silly. What was the question?
Yeah, the spirit of the Doge just, took over. Not took over, but like, you guys, it just kind of emerged. Like, you guys just were hanging out, and Doge is hilarious, and you're excited about it, and now it's on your wall.
Yeah.
And it's like,
I mean, it's a great avatar. Like, we could have put like Tom and Gary's heads or something, but this is like perfection. This is uncorruptible, anti-fragile, all beneficent, all benevolent, all the time. Like, when we first printed these out and stuck them all over my house, I was like, man, I'm just not getting tired of looking at this face. And then it just kept going, and it's been like 4.5 years, and it's just looking at all, especially the ones where it's zoomed out and the arms are crossed in that way. It's just like, it's perfect. It's as divine as it gets. I'm sure there's, if you overlaid the golden ratio stuff, like, you'd see.
Mona Lisa, the girl who says, why not both? Also have the same pose and proportions.
Why not both?
Mm-hmm. Why not both? She's talking about hard versus soft shell tacos on her commercial. So I was going to add to that. So a lot of images, if you talk about them seriously, they start to lose their value, and the joke starts to get stale. But I feel like Doge is just getting upgraded. Like Doge, 3.0, Doge 2000, with the kind of Borg implants. Doge peels off its face, and it's like a distributed cybernetic consciousness. Doge, DOGE, decentralized. This is a project I'm working on. Decentralized organizing games experience. Yes.
It's going to be really funny when academic circles start analyzing this.
There's already a field called Buffy studies.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's an
Like
increasingly
the
accepted
Buffy the Vampire Slayer, right?
academic field. Yeah, Buffy studies, and they study Joss Whedon's work. So that field might pick up the Doge first.
Jacob may have some.
yes. You want to introduce yourself a little bit?
Yeah. My name's Jacob. I'm a engineer who loves Doge. We were talking about the anti-fragility of Doge, and I think it reminded me of a conversation I had last night about the Tao. The Tao is the way to be. And what do they say about the Tao? The Tao that can be named is not the Tao. There's infinite complexity to the universe, and a meme cannot encode that all. But perhaps the Doge meme, in its direction, is pure enough that as long as we continue to adapt it and grow it, the meme can last forever. So
They said the same thing about Jesus,
it's the same. It's Jesus. It's true for Jesus as well,
right?
And that's why they may converge one day.
Well, I think it does bring up a really important point, though. As beautiful as this is now, and as timely as this is now, things like Doge and the DDP finding this intimate spiritual overlap is proof that there are all these different containers for this shared sensibility. The real anti-fragility isn't it being holdable in any container, and if somehow the container we're enjoying now loses its flavor, loses its spirit, cool, it's just a mask in the game of Maya anyway. toss it off and throw on a new one. This is supposed to be silly, right? So, yeah.
Right, and that lends to its ultimate adaptability.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yeah, not taking itself too seriously is really a mechanism in which it can adapt. Whereas if you take yourself seriously, you're always stuck. Be water, my friend.
And I guess, yeah, when you have a human avatar, humans are always fallible, but I'm pretty sure the Doge is not.
Yeah.
Careful, buddy. Little culty there.
I've already been inducted.
Have you met the original Shiba Inu? We were hoping that maybe the Doge would actually be at DogeCon.
She passed.
We could. Oh no.
No, Chelsea.
Mhm.
Apparently, the original Sheeb, I don't even know the name, but is still alive in Japan, and Chelsea was reaching out and trying to get her, it's actually a her, here, but it didn't work out, I guess, but here in spirit. It would be. Maybe we could do some sort of a pilgrimage to Japan and a DDP.
Yes. Yes.
DDP in Tokyo.
Oh man.
Oh man. Can we DDP?
I'd be so down.
I think if we get like more than 50%, like a 51% of the plane seats, then yes. Yeah.
51%
Yeah. And then we pass around a document, we all sign it, and then we're like, this plane is now property of DDP for the next 2 hours, and we're gonna party.
Yeah, they've got protocols for that, bro.
For petitions, they have anti-petition plane protocols. Yeah.
That's the centralized authority behind
Yeah.
that is resistant against the 50.
Well, then we all need speakers. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this is not, it's not a 51% attack. It's a 51% party.
Right.
Yeah.
I would never attack a plane.
Right.
Yeah,
51% evolution.
Love.
It will quickly reach 100%. Yeah, we all know that.
Everyone will be dancing.
We'll sing patriotic songs.
Yes.
Guess we do need Is there a Doge anthem? I really love that. Have you seen the Doge NASCAR video that guy made? With like the amazingly epic film score. I think that's a good one.
talking, this has to be one of the coolest sponsorship stories we've ever heard. The fans helping you get funding for the race.
Dogecoin, or Dogecoin, and Dogecoin.
There's dogecoin.avi. Have you guys seen that? So good. Should probably play those at the end here.
Yeah, we'll just throw some content around.
It's funny that you mention pilgrimage to Japan, actually, because on the drive up here on the solstice, I had a vision, and I entered into psychic contact with the future base of Holo in Japan that we are going to set up by 2025. And I started talking with our director of marketing, Sammy Van Ness, in the future, and she started sending me back some really interesting information about how Holo's doing. And so the Japan base is going to happen. We need to get on that.
Yeah, one of my missions in life is to go to Japan and do something there, like hang out for a little bit. There might be like a rainbow gathering coming up there. So anyway, yeah, DDP in Tokyo would be nuts. Really good.
Yeah, it's funny. We were just talking about that last.
Should we do a Tokyo DogeCon?
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were talking.
Just take it there.
Anders, this came up like a couple weeks ago. Anders was lovely enough to fly up with the transmitter from San Francisco when it got stranded, when I got stuck, not allowed into the States. And we're talking about a DDP tour sponsored by Holochain, some kind of integration of Japan, I mean. So
Yeah.
it could be perfect.
I think the ethos of those two projects the ethos of the Holochain project and DDP are very much aligned. Absolutely. Very adaptable project, the Holochain.
Yeah, and actually, if you were to do like brand analysis on it, the thing that the two brands share is actually ethics, which is super cool.
And nothing to say.
Yeah, I love the idea. I can see the Pikachu's coming out of the woodwork and like Hello Kitties and all kinds of like Transformer robots just dancing down Tokyo streets. Yeah, it's gonna be fun.
Well, actually, in regards to like Holochain and the DDP having overlapping ethics, there's also like overlapping vision. One of my favorite dreams for the DDP is that it's actually a front wave for the distribution of mesh networking infrastructure. Like, eventually we have to grow past boomboxes and giant FM transmitters. We've got these awesome things like the jammy packs, the fanny packs with speakers in them that are probably just missing a few components to be nodes in a mesh net. And then we need software that can have low latency playback of music and voice. But that is useful for any mesh networking communications need. So we start rocking with Holochain, creating hardware and software packages that are for the party but useful for everything. And every time we drop into a town, we leave that infrastructure behind.
Want me to speak to that? Yeah. So, I completely agree. And during our Indiegogo, we were actually toying with the idea of having a stretch goal where we would send out 10 packs of mesh networking tech to people. We were not able to do that at all because the technology and also you need to have a high density of mesh networking tools. Right. So a party is great because then you have a high percentage of the party goers with the technology. But yeah, in general, so Holochain did sponsor Dogecoin for $3,000, and me and the Holo's director of digital marketing, Sammy Van Ness, were able to get that. And we totally agree with your vision, and I hope the more of like all of Holo ends up agreeing with your vision, because I think that's what this sponsorship is a step towards, is the acknowledgement that Holochain is a fantastic technology for partying. And this collusion between mesh networking and decentralized movements and like decentralized dance parties, this collaboration is actually really makes sense. So yeah, I do see possibly us moving towards that. Sammy and I have been talking about building building untraditional types of merchandise for advertising Holo and Holochain. So we want to start a merchandise website and sell business cosplay casual clothing. So like cat ears in like the same blue as your business suit, and like a red, what are those? Like a red business blazer, except with with panties. And, and like everything that you would find like straight out of an anime, but adapted so that it fits within a business professional context, and start querying like business spaces. I want to publish that Xenogaming ID card, so you can have a plastic ID card that you show people you're like an official partier, officially outside of the economy. So yeah, I think there's a lot of possible collaborations here. Yeah.
Well, thank you for sponsoring DogeCon, and
Yeah. Big love, man. Thanks.
yeah.
It's an honor, and it's an honor to meet Gary and Tom and everyone else involved in this project.
I was just gonna say, do you feel like you got your money's worth to be funny, but then you talked, so it didn't make sense anymore?
Sorry. Oh, money. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Certainly. Yeah. Actually, I think that this. I'll just use the words themselves. I think this sponsorship is a huge value for the organization because everyone loves DDP. We love DDP at Holo. Like anyone who knows about it at Holo loves DDP, and it's just such a good fit. I think I'm personally really excited for the brands to be like linking. Because Holochain is fully decentralized technology and open source, so yeah, it just makes sense.
So, look into Holochain. It's really interesting. We had a really good discussion the other night. Like you and your business partner, we went deep into sort of like kind of the fundamentals, and yeah, it's very intriguing. So
yeah, the default in Holochain is you share a fair portion of the network load. Like BitTorrent, and there's no currency built in. So yeah, so the non-default that manifests currency into the system using mutual credit is when you offload part of your labor to someone else. So the default is everyone does a fair share of the work, and that work is providing hosting services to other users of apps, decentralized apps, as opposed to burning processing cycles guessing a random number to mint the next coin.
I just got a text from Niven.
nice.
Says he's just waking up, and I believe he's just waking up in a nudist colony on the top of a mountain. No jokes.
You serious? That's exactly what's happening.
Very plausible.
Very plausible.
That's the spirit of the Doge right there. He's doing what makes sense to him, with no concern for what anybody thinks.
Niven's kind of the werewolf of Doge. You know? Like, comes down and rages, howls at the moon, and then is back into the woods, and he wakes up naked on a mountain. What happened?
Yeah, this was really fun, and DogeCon was probably one of the best, if not the best, conference I've ever been to. It was super well organized, and all the events and talks were amazing, and panels were really, really interesting and great, and the whole thing was pervaded by a sense of like saving the world or ethics or something like that, and partying. It was really, really fun. So thank you everyone who was involved in this event, wherever you are. And yeah, I'm Anders Ahmet. My website is andersamet.com, ANDERSAAMODT.com, and I'm Holo Meme on Twitter. And you should scroll back to the beginning if you go check that out, because there's a storyline that evolves on that Twitter, and headmaster of internetschoolofmagic.com, and as I said at the beginning, the admin of Sorcery of the Spectacle on Reddit. Thank you.
Yeah. I really like the idea that atheism and many religions aren't mutually exclusive. But the conflict is really a consequence of the lack of evolution of either of those concepts. Because I think that in many ways, religion and atheism are organizational principles around truths, but coming at it from different perspectives. I think that the deification of Doge, in all of its absurdity, and we are doing it ironically, is really how do you say, cathartic to that part of the mind which we're always grappling between the distinctions between spirituality and logical positivism. And I think that we all see that together. So I'm really always happy to be a part of DDPs because I really believe in the underlying direction we're going with all this. So thank you, Gary. Thank you, everybody, for being here.
Right on, man. Thanks, Jacob. So this was my first meme conference. I've been living the meme for decades, but I've never really gone so deep in the philosophy of it, the true analysis and depth into meme as a culture of cultures even. I was just really blown away. I've been given a lot to think about this weekend because I've always recognized how messaging has an impact and has its own flows, but like, wow, as a radical avant-garde art movement that's exploring the edges of what's possible by integrating the technology, and most of the people doing it here are innovators in some way in the field of technology, which means we're using these reflections to build values into the system iteratively, and using like the Doge as our guiding star. Like, we'll know if we're off if it doesn't quite feel Doge. I'm blown away. I'm blown away. I've been doing this conscious crypto tour, as it were, for the last year or so, and every time I go to one of these things, it blows me away and it outdoes itself. And I'm here and I'm like, it keeps outdoing itself. We keep outdoing ourselves. Even with the surface level noise that's happening in this movement right now, the core is only growing stronger, richer, gaining inches and feet, and then sharing our victories. And I think it's getting really robust, and it's in that what Peter Diamandis would call the deceptive growth or deceptive innovation phase. I don't think we're all that far from this sort of thing really peeking through the wall to everybody else. I'm really excited to see it. Anyway, I'm Damo. I'm the strategic philosopher for the Decentralized Dance Party, and you can find me on Twitter if you search for Tech Drugs Rock and Roll.
Thanks, guys. I just had a funny thought. Could you imagine people fighting a religious war, and one side was like holding up images of this, like killing other people? I don't see that happening. Like, you just couldn't. You can't get mad when this face is, and no one can get mad at you either. So I think it's pretty powerful. Yeah. If you search for Decentralized Dance Party or Gary LaChance, you'll find things related to things that I'm involved in that relate to this stuff.
Okay.
Anything else we should say?
Thanks everybody for coming. This is a great conversation. I enjoyed it, and I hope you guys enjoyed it over there at home or wherever you're listening or watching this. I am Juan Galt. This was Meme Battle.
Life is but a meme.
Living the meme.
Yeah, post-ironically, meta-ironically, the Doge is real. The Doge is the only source of truth. Or at least the best source of truth.
Don't let your memes become dreams.
Don't tread on memes.
Also, holochain.org.